Hi there and welcome to In Focus, North Carolina. I'm Sarah Redlang. This week we're joining you from Sampson County. We're in the town of Clinton, outside the Coharie Tribal Center. The Coharie are one of 8 state-recognized tribes in North Carolina. This week we're honoring them and many others during this Native American Heritage Month.
There was 2 villages at the town of Newbern. One of them name was Chatuka, and the other village was named Rockconk.
The Aboriginal origins of the Coharie go back as far as the 1500s to the eastern coast of our state in what is now New Bern.
And we were known as the Nisiok with European contact.
In the early 1700s, the Coharie made the river their home, in large part due to colonial conflict.
Down the Neuse River, we came west from the eastern shores of North Carolina, and we ran until we came across this beautiful river, and at that point we stopped running.
During our visit with the Coharie tribe, I spoke with their tribal administrator, Gregory Jacobs, who reflected on what the tribe had sacrificed in order to survive.
You had to, I will say, go underground. Our customs, our traditions, our ceremony, our language, our dress, which is a very pitiful situation that a group of people would have to abandon those things for pure survival.
The story of the Coharie is painfully familiar to North Carolina's American Indian population.
Most of the tribes we have in North Carolina today, their ancestors were pretty quickly surrounded by colonists, and they had to make the kind of adjustments that helped them survive.
UNC professor Kathleen Duvall is the author of the Pulitzer Prize-winning book Native Nations. It covers 1,000 years of Native American history, beginning long before European colonization. The 1100s saw the rise of complex societies in what is now North Carolina and across parts of North America. But a changing climate caused these communities to fall by the 1400s, before the arrival of Europeans.
And so the people who had lived in the cities, or whose ancestors had lived in the cities, they spread out along the rivers of what's now North Carolina, lived in smaller towns, maybe from 100 to a few thousand people. And that's basically the way native North Carolinians were living at the time that Europeans first began to come.
With Europeans arriving in great numbers by the 1700s, the colonization of North Carolina came early. In the beginning, American Indians established trading relationships with the new settlers.
Some of those lasted and worked very well. Others of those relationships came apart and turned to war and dispossession.
In the early 1700s, the Tuscaroras were a powerful tribe living near our state's coast. But years of illegal colonization, broken treaties, trade abuses, and more caused the tribe to attack English settlers. But the Tuscarora War took a turn when South Carolina got involved. English settlers were teamed up with their native allies, some of whom were already enemies of the Tuscaroras.
And the Tuscarora War ended up being devastating to the Tuscaroras. Many of them ended up moving north and joining the Iroquois or Haudenosaunee Confederacy. Others stayed here and became part of other native communities.
What pride, what dignity!
The history of the American Indian population in our state is one of fearless perseverance. During the American Revolution, the Cherokee Nation fought alongside the British, seeing the war as their chance to push back against English colonizers illegally moving onto their land. But Southern militias, including those from our state, South Carolina, Georgia, and Virginia, marched into Cherokee country and defeated the tribe, resulting in the Cherokees' loss of a large area of land that is now Tennessee.
And that war is part of what leads to the later Indian removal and the Trail of Tears for much of the Cherokee Nation. But the ability to stay in the mountains of North Carolina, of the Eastern Band, that's still around today.
The dark cloud of colonization evaporates in the light, shining on present-day leaders from our state's American Indian population who are continuing the cultural traditions of their ancestors.
Today you can actually get a kayaking tour from Coharies and go on the Great Coharie River and some of its tributaries and learn about the Coharies today and their ancestors.
To be able to kayak on a river that bears my tribe's name is super powerful. Ready to roll?
Yeah.
3.
Cullen Bell is the watershed coordinator for the Great Coharie River Initiative. Since 2015, the initiative has cleaned out over 150 miles of river in Sampson County.
Today's uses, we're able to use it as a ecotourism business, and then that allows people to get out and get out in nature, self-relaxation, self-discovery, and just to get away from all the fast-paced life that we live in.
Bell says the river has always represented the lifeblood for his tribe.
It was our water source, our food source. We navigated these water channels throughout Sampson County, and it protected us. That's river birch.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
That's pulling kind of.
Bell also says the Great Coharie River Initiative has opened doors for tribal funding and granted the Coharie a seat at Opportunity's table.
We're visible now. You're here.
Still to come on In Focus.
The decisions that were made many years ago really were aimed to kill the Indian to save the man.
And here we are, still fighting, still pushing.
The efforts of political leaders close to issues impacting Native Americans to increase visibility and support for indigenous populations. And when we return,
making sweet potatoes sexy again.
We're checking in with Triangle area Native Americans who are keeping their traditions alive and their community healthy with a little help from our state vegetable. That's next on In Focus. Welcome back. This week we're honoring Native American Heritage Month. We traveled out to Sampson County where the big and little Coharie rivers flow through the homeland of the Coharie people, a tribe that's lived here for about 280 years. I recently visited the Triangle Native American Society, a group dedicated to providing support to Native Americans in the Triangle area.
When I first found Triangle Native American Society, I found it as a resource and a tool to help connect me and almost make me feel like I was at home in a sense.
In 1984, the Triangle Native American Society began its efforts to promote and protect American Indians, all living in the Triangle area. More than 40 years later, those efforts continue, despite recent data, which found that less than a fraction of 1% of all philanthropy dollars goes to Native-led organizations.
So we're doing all this amazing work on a literal fraction of a percent out here.
Increasing the public's awareness of Native Americans in the Triangle is a major mission for the society.
In the Triangle community, a lot of people associate us with our tribal homelands. And that we're supposed to be in a specific area, but what they don't know is that many Native people moved up to the Triangle for job opportunities and made communities here like Triangle Native American Society.
During a sweet potato cooking tutorial recently hosted by the Society, I spoke with the chef of the event, Christina Theodoro, a member of the Lumbee tribe who says the purpose of the event is to get Native Americans to eat more of the nutritious food associated with their heritage, like tata bread, a unique way to eat sweet potatoes, nostalgic for many in the American Indian community who grew up eating the dish.
What we want is folks to get away from eating processed foods, eating foods that aren't from Mother Earth, that aren't from, what Creator gave us as indigenous community members to eat, what we ate, at our aunts' tables, at our parents' tables, at our moms' tables, that really were more nutritious for us. there's a lot of health disparities among tribal community members, and to help them actually remember that they ate good growing up, and making sweet potatoes sexy again, really and truly, to really have a way for people to remember those things is a way for us to get them to reincorporate in their diet now.
Little Blue Bakehouse served as the location for the Tater Bread cultural event. The shop's owner is a Lumbee tribe member and a member of the Triangle Native American Society, who says her Lumbee grandmother always believed in her dream of becoming a pastry chef.
I didn't have a ton of people who believed in the dream. She was the one who said, if you do this and you pull this off, you can have my KitchenAid. Just being able to finally come full circle and host a class with the Lumbee Food Collective with Triangle Native American Society, using my equipment that my grandmom gave me that said, if you can do it, you can have it. And here we are.
Coming up next.
Do we feel like we've been properly represented? No, we don't.
I stand before you once again to advocate for justice and equal treatment through full federal recognition.
Righting the wrongs that have occurred in the past is absolutely key.
Our focus turns to the complicated political battle American Indian tribes in our state are facing today for federal recognition from the United States government. That's next on In Focus. We're here in Sampson County visiting the Coharie Indian tribe as we continue to celebrate Native American Heritage Month. We've been speaking with leaders and advocates about the issues impacting the tribes and the next steps towards solutions. Here's some of our conversations.
I stand before you once again to advocate for justice and equal treatment through full federal recognition.
Earlier this month, North Carolina's Lumbee tribe made its case in a Senate hearing for the first time since 2021. Delivering testimony about why the Lumbee should be granted federal recognition. It would make the tribe eligible for additional federal dollars. The origins of federal recognition came as a result of treaties made between Native nations and the U.S. government. But many tribes who found themselves surrounded by English colonists in the 16 and 1700s, before there was a United States, do not have a treaty relationship with the federal government today.
So that's made it much harder, for example, for the Lumbees to establish federal recognition than a tribe like the Cherokees that was still completely independent, an independent native nation in 1776 at the time the United States was founded.
The Lumbee tribe has pushed Congress for years for recognition, but these efforts have always stalled in the Senate. But there's bipartisan support this time around, including from President Donald Trump. Senator Tom Tillis, who sponsored the Senate version of the bill that would grant the tribe federal recognition, testified before the Senate Indian Affairs Committee's hearing on the legislation and spoke alongside other lawmakers from our state in support of the Lumbee's request.
So today we're going to go to the hearing and explain why it's time to right this 137-year-old wrong. I also want to give a shout out to President Trump, who is one of his first executive orders sought the recognition of the Lumbee.
The Lumbee tribe's lack of recognition has been a historic injustice, and I'm hopeful this group will finally receive the recognition it so profoundly deserves.
In 1956, Congress, this place right here, it denied Lumbee benefits that every other federal recognized tribe receives. And I don't think that's right. And this is about fixing that.
But some tribes, including the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, feel underrepresented by the push for Lumbee recognition and argue the Lumbee should go through the Department of Interior's Bureau of Indian Affairs instead of Congress.
Again, do we feel like we've been properly represented? No, we don't. And, that's a big issue for us. It's just, we're citizens of North Carolina, just like anyone else. And, We're an economic engine in western North Carolina that provides a lot of jobs to North Carolina citizens, and we deserve to be heard. We just don't feel that Congress has the tools to be able to look at the details of the merits and just the spirit of the request. It's beyond relevant that we have experts in the Office of Federal Acknowledgement that this is what they do on a daily basis.
This community was a proud community that has stewarded these lands since time immemorial. They have been connected to the lands. They know how to live sustainably within those lands, how to take care of the waters and the animals and do so in balance. We have a lot to learn from them.
Our In Focus cameras also caught up with Sally Jewell, who served as U.S. Secretary of the Interior from 2013 to 2017 during a recent speaking engagement at Elon University. Jewell said the federal government promised to be responsible for addressing the biggest issues impacting Native Americans still today after their native land was taken and indigenous populations became displaced.
When they were put on reservations, that ability to sustain themselves and their cultures was taken away. In exchange, we said, we'll provide education, we'll provide health care, we'll provide economic opportunity. And what we were obligated to do were the things that remain to be the greatest needs.
The former Interior Secretary says tribes deal with concerning levels of suicide, a lack of economic opportunity, and ineffective healthcare systems.
The decisions that were made many years ago really were aimed to kill the Indian to save the man. And that meant putting people in boarding schools, trying to assimilate them into the white Christian culture that was leading the United States. And that did not work. And it broke families apart, and it created historical trauma over years.
In our state, efforts continue to improve conditions for Native tribes. A new law that'll go into effect in December will give the Catawba Indian Nation their own police department and their own judicial system. State Senator Ted Alexander, who sponsored the legislation in the General Assembly, is proud of what this means for his Native constituents.
It will help with I think creating a safe environment there at the casino, and also it will allow the Catawbas to have their kind of their own justice system, which is what they have in other places too.
Leaders connected to these issues impacting indigenous communities are also reflecting this Native American Heritage Month on the resilience of the first North Carolinians.
We can take the mindset that we have been colonized and assimilated, but we can actually take it a step further and say that we were invaded and our communities were taken over by military conquest. But if you think that way, you actually are creating hardships for yourself mentally and emotionally. And we would all walk around as indigenous people thinking that we lived in occupied territory. What matters is that I know that I have ancestors that are buried in the ground of our community, and I have that connection and that tie, and nobody can take that away from me. And that our ancestors really and truly originated here, and that's something that I actually celebrate every day.
A special thanks to all the Native American leaders who took time to share their stories and perspectives with us. And thank you for joining us here on In Focus. We'll be back same time, same place next week with another deep dive on a topic impacting North Carolinians. But until then, I'm Sarah Rudlang. Take care and have a great week.